All right. Make sure.
So the whole time we're looking at this.
We're looking at that camera the whole time.
Hey, I'm rolling in bold.
All right. Thank you for letting us kind of turn the cameras for a little bit. We wish we could have done this in Nicaragua, but this is the second best option, and I hope some people will just get a lot out of hearing from the guys behind the lens. So for Wade and Jesse, who filmed with us in India, how did this compare to the first season?
The first season in India that we shot was, admittedly for me, more magical because I had never been to India. I had been to Nicaragua a couple of times, so I knew semi what to expect. But India was very much unknown. India logistically was a lot easier because Dave and Mel run everything, and Mel is like just commando organized. The fact that we were telling a story that we had so little idea of and was so beautiful was amazing, whereas Nicaragua was also amazing, just in different ways.
I think the big difference was, I think, really the stories. You know, in India, we were with the Murray family the whole time and really kind of dove into their stories, and then when you compare that to Nicaragua, you know, we were doing a lot of different things and we were telling a lot of different stories. And then also in Nicaragua, it was just like kind of a big family reunion, really. I mean, there was a ton of people that we're all friends with. In Nicaragua, we weren't allowed to bring a drone to get some establishing aerial shots. And so having some of those restrictions in Nicaragua versus really none in India was also, I think, a lot different.
It was a more difficult shoot for our family in Nicaragua. Not having the ability to go deep with a certain family and having a home, somebody, you know, a family where we were in their living room, and it just, you could let down and it was more comfortable. It was just a little bit more challenging with the setup and trying to cover, you know, 5 and 6 different stories as opposed to going deep with one family. That was hard.
Well, and we're just trying to figure out the find in general, the concept for the show. I mean, we have it down, but we're also trying to see what audiences respond to. So, you know, zip lining and learning how to surf and going on the boat ride, seeing monkeys, all of this stuff, we didn't really have that in India. We didn't have those kind of like fun aspects. And so we want to see what resonates with an audience and what allows the show to grow and be in front of more people. And so although those things are really fun, it's also a lot more work.
What is it like following us and trusting us when we do a Kickstarter campaign to raise funds for the project that we hire you for, not even knowing that it's a guarantee?
We had booked our tickets and we were actually flying there going, there still isn't exactly funding, but pretty brilliant move, Dave. Get some drama going, you know, just force it on through.
That's all that was.
Totally intentional.
Yeah,
you had me going.
I remember my mom texting me like, oh my gosh, like, are you gonna go? Like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna get funded. And it was amazing to watch so many people become really passionate about making this show happen. And for me, this is my job, and being able to see people support it so much, and there's so much more responsibility, I think, for us as filmmakers to really create an amazing show.
To think about, you know, all these people, we felt so indebted to them for taking the risk. You know, there's a kid sending $40. For a little kid, $40 is the world. You know, and for them to send that, it makes you want to work that much harder, knowing that this isn't, you know, some giant company funding this for a tax write-off. It's individual people who believe that stories like this need to be told. And of course it happens. Of course it comes together, and of course everything works out as it should. And just that, you know, just those lessons, just keep doing it.
We have almost never had the finances behind what we're doing until we needed it, until people got around and we asked people. And yeah, now we've had over 500, almost 600 people give on Kickstarter to the first 2 seasons of The Find. It's pretty incredible. That's a lot of people, most of which we've never met. Yeah, pretty amazing.
So what was the biggest challenge for you while shooting in Nicaragua?
I think I'm going to default that question to the Californian and the Colorado people who are not used to humidity. because I loved it.
Oh my gosh. I almost had to make a new belt loop for my pants because I was so hot and I was so sweaty all the time that I lost like probably 5 pounds on that trip. I couldn't hold my pants up by the end of the trip. Dia de Luz, I was like a stick man at the end of the day.
You can freeze to death, can't bronze to death.
I was gone for a week in Boise, Idaho, and then home for a couple days, and then I went right to Nicaragua with you guys, and I have a 3-month-old right now, and so it's hard like leaving that responsibility with my wife at home. For me, that was probably the hardest part was just being gone away from my family.
Nicaragua, you know, just like in the last 10 years of going down there, it is still the worst poverty I've seen, worse than Africa, worse than South America, worse than all these other places. And I think the hardest part for me is having to re-break my heart to not viewing people as subject matter or stories, but as just humans. I think that's the hardest part, is learning when to have a camera up and when to put your camera down and walk out with open arms and a hug and a smile. It is a job, but it's way more than that, and just valuing everyone that you come in contact with.
You guys brought up a good point. You know, you've been doing this some for 5, 10, 15 years now, and you have to leave family. And you know, a lot of people think that, oh, this is the glamorous work. You get to travel and see the world, but I think people don't necessarily think about all the things you're leaving behind.
I have a wife and a little son who I hate leaving for periods of time, but I kind of flip into a mode where you know, people say, oh, do you miss your family? And I usually say, well, not really, because I'm so busy and on task with what we're doing, that the good side of that is it helps me to not really get hung up, you know, on the emotion of, oh, I wish I was home, because that can kind of drag you down. The bad side of that is you get so busy that you forget to connect with what you're actually doing emotionally on the ground. So a lot of times when I get home, when I'm looking over the footage, is when it triggers the emotions that should have been triggered when I was there capturing it, but I was looking through a viewfinder and thinking about focus or listening into audio or, you know, coordinating with crew. And so there's good and bad to turning off the emotional switch there.
I think for me, the hard part is I get to experience all these amazing things when I travel, and a lot of times I don't ever get to share those real intimate and specific moments with my wife, because a lot of times I just forget, or I'm too busy on a shoot and I don't have the time to actually sit down and talk with her about all of it. So that's the hard thing, is, you know, having a companion that you do life with, and then there are things that you experience that they don't know about and they don't get to experience. Sometimes I feel a little guilty, like I get to do all these cool things and my wife has to stay home. So, I mean, part of it is just the life that we've chosen, and I feel really called to do what I do and travel and tell amazing stories. So it's just a sacrifice that we've chosen to take.
I remember hearing, you know, for everything you say yes to in life, you say no to something else. So saying yes to, you know, a big production trip is saying no to your family. In getting older, you start to evaluate what's worth your time, because your time's the most valuable thing you have. So to go into a situation where you're like, all right, if I'm gonna be away for a couple weeks, it's probably better be, you know, something I am passionate about. It's a story worth telling, as opposed to, oh yeah, we're gonna go, you know, sell some product you don't believe in, or you're doing something like that. I think it's just really analyzing that cost and going, okay, can I justify to my family, to my wife, that this is worth leaving home for a long time? And obviously this was a pretty easy answer.
So while we're on family, what is it like getting to film and shoot with a family and with kids and traveling across the world with us?
The Hansows are incredible to me in that there are 4 of them, 2 of them are little kids, and yet they can still get ready very fast. They can share a room like champs. I would go crazy, I think, after a week of that. Despite the fact that the kids can sometimes get a little overwhelmed by the heat or by just the sheer boredom. Because if I was in their shoes, I'd be bored silly a lot. Man, they really can buck up and just deal with it and hang all day. It's really hard getting them to put sentences and thoughts together, but that's because they're like 10 years old. And but that's part of the charm when you get to capture little words with them on camera as well.
You know, Like Gibbs Heat was one of my first clients, ever as I went into the filmmaking industry. And so to be able to see their kids grow up and to see how their organization has developed over the years has been really, really cool for me and inspiring. And you know, I've worked with so many different people, and the thing that I think I love about the Hansows the most is their passion for what they do. They'll, you know, work 14-hour days on camera and not complain once. That helps me more when I'm, you know, behind the camera or running sound. If they got a smile on their face, then I can have a smile on my face and continue to work hard. And Jaden and Asher are gonna be incredible adults as they grow up, and I'm really excited to see how all of this traveling really impacts them. So it's really special for me.
In the early days of film, W.C. Field says, never work with kids, never work with animals. You know, how does someone articulate their thoughts on a really intense situation? Intense for an adult to go through. So now try and process that as a child. In Nueva Vida, Asher and Jaden are just watching these trash trucks come in and watching kids their age run in there and, you know, scavenge through it. And, you know, we asked Jaden, like, how do you think you can make this better? And, you know, she thinks really hard and she's like, well, if the trash truck was full of candy and toys, when it dumped out, they'd have candy and toys instead of trash. And like, part of me is like laughing at like this crazy ludicrous thought. And then you're like, what a pure heart that this is what Jaden sees. And she's absolutely right. If it was full of that, that's what they get. And for that, it was so cool to go to a place with seeing it through a child's eyes.
What was the funniest thing you saw or encountered during their trip?
Oh my gosh, that's the easiest question you're gonna ask. You screaming like a crazy woman on the slide, on the zip line.
Yeah, I think for me, my favorite thing and funniest thing was observing people almost dying on the slide. I mean, that thing was so intense, and I was for sure someone was gonna break their leg.
Actually, you know what one of my favorite moments was? Being able to tell Asher and Jaden fake advice about things, either making up facts about things that aren't right or going, so at Monkey Island, what you want to do is you're going to throw out the first banana on the ground, and that's going to bring the monkeys there, and then they're going to slowly start, you know, building trust, and then right when they come out to take it out of your hand, pick up a rock and smash their brains out. And they go, oh! And you're like, stop telling our kids that.
So Katso had the idea of bringing a photographer on this particular trip, and my initial thought was, I enjoy having a small crew, especially for third world situations. In India, it was just me and Wade, and in this, it was going to be me, Wade, and Matt. And so my initial thought was, oh, that's maybe too many lenses? You know, what's the guy like? Is he good at traveling? Can he kind of hang in the background? And Rob blew me away with how well-traveled he was, courteous he was, how he could flow with situations, how serving he was. There'd be times when I'd be shooting and I'd be so busy, and he would tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, by the way, there's a really cool shot right over there if you want it. And he would just disappear again. And that kind of stuff was very helpful. So in the end, I was very thankful that Rob could come along and not only capture images, which are really helpful for telling the story, but be a huge help to us as a crew and up the morale and just be a great guy altogether.
Rob had just been on a whirlwind of shooting great whites in Australia, ad campaigns. He just had, no joke, gotten back from Italy on a huge boat campaign, came back, changed his laundry, repacked his bag, and was on a flight to Nicaragua. He shared a bed with me the entire trip, never complained because the hotel was full. I'm like, hey man, you can share a bed with me. And Rob just laughed and, you know, reflected on the days. It's really special to see a good friend take that risk down there where there's nothing to gain from it financially. He's coming back and pretty much that's his vacation time.
Rob, when you see this, we are so grateful for the way that you loved on our kids and you were patient, you played, helped us out immensely, and the shots that you took are amazing and you're gonna help us out incredibly. And honestly, Dave and I have been talking and we're like, I don't know how we're gonna do the next season without you. So you may have just got reeled in. What surprised you the most while filming in Nicaragua?
Actually, at Dia de Luz, there was a situation that did not make the show for obvious reasons, where one of the local kids was running around with a knife and he was waving it at people. and a lot of other kids were just throwing water balloons at people and rocks and mud, and by and large the community really appreciates what Dia de Luz is and what Brad and Love, Light and Melody do for that community. But nevertheless, you got a lot of kids without fathers, and that was the biggest downer of the trip to me, where I was like, wow, this is heavy. Like, you know, in the midst of doing so much good for a community, humans are still humans.
During the day, there was all these volunteers from the states that had planted all these beautiful flowers. And while I was filming, I watched these women come up and take the flowers out of the ground and probably take them to their own houses. It was just rough seeing that, you know, you try to pour so much into people, but the reality is that everybody's human.
That was hard for us too as parents. You know, our kids were trying to help and do things, and here we had kids running around with bottles of water from the sewer, throwing it at them, and they were in tears at times, just questioning, why are these kids doing this to me? So, I mean, it led to some good discussion, but that day was hard. I felt like I was playing a security guard half of the day.
But it was half beautiful and half very hard and difficult. I mean, so you're doing something really beautiful in a typically pretty dark area. And so, of course that's gonna clash, right? That's tough.
Yeah, mine was also on Dia de Luz, and this, I'm just running around, you know, just getting the shots that, you know, I know Jesse needs for the edit, and I hear this kid yelling, Mateo, Mateo, and I look over and I'm like, who is this yelling my name? And years ago, my friends Brian Nevins and Luis Maximiano, they're photographers who came down with Love, Light and Melody. We had spent the night in Chureca, where the first gringos to stay in there, and this woman Maritza, she opened her house to us, just a, you know, throw together shack out of the trash. But she brought us her best bed. She brought us, like, literally, she gave us the best she had. So when I hear this yelling, I'm like, who is that? And it's her grandson. And he remembered me. And he's like, how are you doing? How's your family? And I could only talk to him for a couple minutes. And I had to run. And I just felt, I was like, this guy, like, I've come in and out of his life, and he's grown up, and he remembers me. It just broke my heart to have to leave to go continue working. And it's just, it hit me hard that night and just still hits me now.
We would just love to hear any final thoughts you have about your time shooting season 2 of The Find in Nicaragua.
Overall, for me, it was really great to get Matt in the crew. He's a guy that I go way back with, and he's one of my best friends, and you know, he's my man wife, so we fight, and we've been married for, like, what, 10 years now, Matt? So fights are a little intense. Yep. I'm from California, don't get the wrong idea about that. And
good for you.
But I'm thankful that we can bring these stories to a wider audience, and I'm thankful for, more than anything, being with people that I love, they love me, and we had a really good time doing what we do best together, and got through the struggles of it, enjoyed the highs and lows, and in the end I think that the audience is gonna really appreciate what they see.
Yeah, for me, I'm really thankful to just be a part of this project and continually be able to see it grow and just reach more people. And I think there's going to be a really good balance of being able to be moved but also laugh and enjoy yourself watching the show. So I'm really excited for people to hear the stories and see all the amazing things that Nicaragua has to offer.
The most valuable resource we have on this planet, and everyone has, is their time. And to look back at what is on paper maybe a job, but it really isn't. Like, it's so much deeper than this is a series. This is like, I love every single person on this crew. You know, Jesse, Wade, Dave Morgan, Asher, Jaden, it is a family. It is a family reunion that just happens to be really overproduced with a lot of cameras running all the time. But I just see so many people who want something else for their life, but they don't step out and risk. And Dave and Morgan continue to do that, and I'm continually grateful to be re-invited into their lives and into their kids' lives. I'm really excited to see what season 2, how it comes out.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you in season 3.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.